Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, continuing to take a look at the next week's slate, heading down to the SEC as Tennessee heads on the road to play Kentucky. There are two teams that, especially with Tennessee, when you're used to breaking down this Tennessee team, a really high-powered offense, the story of this Tennessee team, and I'm including that performance against Alabama, this defense is for real. And if you're a Tennessee fan, you know what the recipe is on offense. The pieces just got to come together a little bit more. You got to be so pumped for this Tennessee defense to look the way it is. That's the missing piece for this Josh Heupel program, or Josh Heupel Tennessee program. You know that offense is going to come together. They're going to get the talent, but the defense coming along like the way it is, getting the playmakers in there. For Tennessee fans, I get a frustrating season. The future's bright under Josh Heupel in my mind. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys. The support y'all have shown for all of these game breakdowns, it truly does mean a lot. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. More importantly, picks, predictions, keys to the game in the comment section. We'll chop it up there. Dill, going to kick this one off to you. Tennessee heading on the road, Kroger Field. How we feeling?
And just to echo what you said, if Tim Banks and this Tennessee defensive staff don't get some recognition with that whatever award for assisting Broyles award.
Give it.
That's a crime because I haven't seen a program turn a unit around like this in a long time. They were so weak at times last year, and this year they've been nails in pretty much every game, and just like the going up against an absolute rock of a program and what Mark Stoops has built, like very steady, very consistent, and they're going to play hard and play you really tough, and
they're going to be coming out ready to swing. They're coming off a bye night game, Kroger Field like this. The environment is going to be very fun. I want to start with this Tennessee offense and talk about what we've seen and kind of what needs to come together. We know this Tennessee offense can be explosive. It's just been a little too choppy at times. And Dill, now, as an overarching point, one, I owe Hendon Hooker an apology. All that NFL draft talk, I was like, I think Hendon Hooker was more of a product of the Josh Heupel system than him being an elite quarterback. Hendon Hooker ran that offense so beautifully. And when you watch this Tennessee offense, you miss a guy like Hendon Hooker. And although Joe Milton has been struggling at times, I think you're also missing the wide receiver play too. I mean, you lost two legitimate NFL wide receivers in Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman. And with Brew McCoy going down, you're seeing that struggle. I want to get into just the lack of explosiveness in the passing attack. Not only is Joe Milton averaging 62% completion percentage, only 6.8 yards per pass. That's 84th in the country. When you think of Tennessee in this offense, you think of explosive plays. You think of Jalen Hyatt catching 75-yard bombs. You just haven't gotten that this year.
And the thing about it is you caught a glimpse of it in that first quarter and a half against Alabama where, he's hitting those throws to Squirrel White, I should say. Ramel Keaton's making plays finally and not having those brutal drops that I think he's had in the past couple of games. You saw that, if they can do that, this offense can be really, really, really effective. You're right, though. It's just the inconsistency at the quarterback play, and frankly, the wideout play, too, is just it's bitten them all year. And despite having a really good run game, it has put a cap on what this offense.
And looking at Joe Milton's numbers, I went back and charted it. Joe Milton targeting wide receivers 20-plus yards down the field. He's 10 of 40. 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That was something you took for granted for Hendon Hooker. I think everyone's sitting there in their chairs, especially the NFL draft community, saying, oh, yeah, he hits a wide-open receiver. It's not hard. It's not easy to throw a 50-yard seed to a wide receiver, hit him in stride for a touchdown. And you're seeing that this year with Joe Milton kind of not making those throws that Hendon Hooker made last year. Now, Bill, you're right with this Tennessee rushing attack. And they want to run the football. 55% of their offensive snaps, you think they're going to air it out and chuck it around the yard. They want to run the football. They got multiple really good running backs. I'd say a 3-headed monster and a really good offensive line with Joe Milton, who can run the football too. I'd like to see Joe Milton run the rock a little bit more.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you saw him doing it, I almost felt like it helped the pass game a little bit at times. It just got him physically involved in the game. It looked like he was sharper. And I kind of think they got to go back to that a little bit. It really worked. But you're right. It starts and stops with this offensive line. This unit, you watch them play against the Bama defensive line that's, I think, the best in the country, and it's not even particularly close right now. They were running guys off the ball. Jaheim Otis, Tim Keenan, really, really good players, and they're getting good movement, good push in running the ball for that 4+ yards pretty consistently, and that is the key. If you're going to be a really good rushing attack, it doesn't matter if you hit a big play or two once in a while. You need to be able to grind out 4 yards pretty much every time you touch it. And that's what this Tennessee team's doing.
And this is going to be, because you mentioned it, they ran the football, especially in the first half. And I will mention, I feel like Josh Heupel maybe took the foot off the gas a little bit in the second half. And I think that was maybe a problem that you could go back to. Now, Kentucky, they're going to have their hands full. Like, this is a really good Kentucky defense, specifically against the run, only allowing 3 yards per carry. That's number 12 in the country. This front seven is really good. They got an absolute dog in the middle in Deion Walker, who I wanted to come to Michigan. Dill, that's going to be the story of this matchup, I think, is Tennessee. If you can establish the run, I think I like Tennessee, but it's not going to be easy with what Kentucky does up front on the defensive side of the ball here.
And the one thing I'll quip about with Kentucky a little bit is I want to see them get back to the way they were playing Florida. They were making
Agreed.
A lot of plays. And I get it. Like, the numbers, I'm not surprised they look really good for Kentucky's defense because they don't give up really any big plays at all. But I thought, like, against Missouri and especially against Georgia, it was too many rush yards were going for positive yards and, like, kind of that 3+ range. And again, we just talked about it. If you're going to stop a team that really wants to run it and can move guys off the ball, you need to be able to hit some negative plays. Deion Walker, some of these defensive ends, I think they're going to need to make some plays now. It can't just be settling for 2-3 yard gains.
And this might be their best rushing attack they face. I know you played Georgia, but this Tennessee
rushing the best rushing attack they'll face.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm less critical. I think going back to that Missouri game and watching the film, like that, I thought they played pretty damn good for most of that game, and just maybe towards the end faded away. I love this Kentucky defense, and it goes back to what Mark Stoops does.
But that is also like the thing. It's like even some of the Kentucky fans, you've obviously started to hear it. It's like it's Mark Stoops almost is too good of a coach now to just play really good and lose these games. I mean, at some point, again, that fan question that was asked to him, it is kind of the question, like, when are we going to break through? And obviously he put it on the recruiting and so forth, but that is the question now. Mark Stoops has proven he's a great coach. This Kentucky team's a really, really good program, but if they're going to go beat a Tennessee, playing good isn't good enough. They need to have guys who play at an NFL level and make NFL plays. And that's the one thing. You saw it a little bit against Florida. We need to see it again.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't argue with that. And I know there's been a lot of buzz. It's hard to crack that upper echelon of the SEC, but this does feel like a game that you want to win. Like, at home, Tennessee coming off a loss to Alabama. This does seem like a spot where you might expect Kentucky to win this football game and kind of galvanize the fans. Now, going to the Kentucky offense, I don't normally put players on blast, but Devin Leary just hasn't been good enough. And it's really frustrating because I think the pass pro has actually gotten a lot better than it was last year. Ray Davis I think Ray Davis might be the best running back in the country. You're going to see a lot of good running backs on the field Saturday night. Ray Davis might be the best one of them all, averaging 7 yards per carry, 5.9 as a team. But Devin Leary, with all the weapons that he has, some of the throws that he's missing, you talk about inconsistencies with Joe Milton. Devin Leary's taking it to another level, only completing 54% of his balls.
And another big thing is the sacks. Like, he's taking brutal sacks. He's fumbling the ball and he's turning it over, which is so disappointing when you have a team that can run the ball like they can run it. I mean, it's like you kind of are set up to have, if you just have decent quarterback play, you should be able to move the ball kind of up and down on teams. And you're right, at times he's just played so poorly. It's stifling what's otherwise should be a good attack, especially because he's got some help on the outside.
That's the most, and what I'd like, I guess, to see is, and you don't exactly want to have to do this with your transfer veteran quarterback, but get him some easy throws. Like, I feel like I'm talking about a true freshman quarterback, but you have Barian Brown, who is a threat to score a touchdown every time he touches the ball. Tavion Robinson, you can say probably the same things. Dane Key, really solid wide receiver. Get him some easy throws. Let those guys do some work after the catch and ease Devin Leary and get some of that confidence back. Because if you get the Devin Leary that you saw at NC State, peak Devin Leary, this Kentucky offense is a ticking time bomb, but you need to see that Devin Leary come out. And if he doesn't, it's just really hard to sustain drives when your quarterback is just playing as inconsistent as Devin Leary's playing.
And it'll be brutally difficult against this Tennessee offense or defense, because this is a Tennessee defense that, let's talk about it on the outset, very much improved. They're so good at making negative plays and creating those big splash plays that, frankly, have been biting Kentucky in the butt this year. So that like they're really going to need to. It will be Devin Leary. He needs to play super sharp because this defense is too good.
Tyler Barron, James Pierce, like just absolute dogs. And when you have a defensive line that's playing that good, all of a sudden the linebackers are playing better, right? I mean, Beasley, Herring, they're flying around the football field making plays, and in the back end, they give up some completions, right? 105th in completion percentage. They give up 63% completion percentage to opposing quarterbacks, but only 6.4 yards per pass. They're coming up tackle and not giving up the big play. That's kind of been like the story of this Tennessee defense is really everything's hard to come by to get some yards on this.
They can avoid giving up big plays. You kind of talk when your defensive line can create negatives. You can play very well even giving up yards because you can get a sack, kill a drive, get a takeaway, get a TFL like Aaron Beasley's been doing. It feels like very consistently. It's just a unit that, again, they're playing good complementary football. Like, do I think it's the best secondary in football? Definitely not. But they're starting to, again, be very stingy in terms of giving up those 10-plus yard plays. And that's allowing their front seven to go to work on teams and make this defense very formidable.
All right, Dale, get into the pick here. Tennessee heading on the road, Kroger Field, 7 Eastern time kick. 3.5-point favorites for the Vols. Where are you leaning here?
I'll say this. I think defense travels, rushing attack travels. I think Tennessee does a little bit better job at both of those than Kentucky. I'll take Tennessee. I love what Tennessee is doing. I think the development this program has made physically just can't be understated, and I'll go with them on the road.
I'm going to fight you on that one. I'm going to take Kentucky with the points at home. One, electric environment. I think the fans are going to be really showing out for this one. I think like Super Bowl-ish kind of environment. And then two, I just trust Kentucky to slow down this Tennessee rushing attack similar to what Alabama did in the second half. And when Tennessee doesn't have that rushing attack cooking, that offense is not an offense you want to trust, especially with Joe Milton. Again, as a Michigan fan, I always find it hard to trust Joe Milton because I've seen the lows, but Joe Milton traveling on the road against a defense that I think can take away the run, I'm going to lean Kentucky with the points here. This is going to be a really fun one. Close game, could go either way, and I'll get the points with the home team. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.